After a long search for a new CEO, Absa announced yesterday that it had secured the services of Kenny Fihla, a banking executive who has spent the last 18 years of his career at Standard Bank and who more recently had become the bank's group chief CEO. Securing the right leadership for any organization is extremely important in being able to execute on a board's vision for growth. So to share more about this critical new appointment, I'm joined by Sello Moloko. He's the chairperson at Absa. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. So why Kenny Fihla? Did he tick off all the boxes that the board was looking for?
Thank you, Nombu, and good afternoon. The appointment of Kenny Fihla is something that's quite exciting for us as an organization. We went through an extensive search, and it was a very thorough search in which we looked for a leader. And we looked for a leader with Pan-African experience, a leader with strong banking pedigree. And so in looking through the market, we found someone like Kenny with very strong credentials in the banking space and a very unquestionable track record of delivery in all the assignments that he's had as a leader in banking, and somebody who leads one of the biggest institutions, one of the biggest CIB institutions in the continent.
Yeah. So at what point did you start engaging Mr. Fihla for the post? I mean, how arduous is the process of securing a banking CEO? Because they don't really come a dime a dozen, do they?
Yeah, look, I mean, we have a small pool of talent in the banking sector at the top in terms of leadership. So the process started in earnest last year, and we went through several iterations up until the time when we came to Kenny, and where we really put all the efforts to headhunt him. And so this conversation really was started very late last year.
Yeah. So what are your expectations of the new CEO? What's the strategy that the board has set for Absa for future growth?
I think the key thing for us, what we're looking for somebody that's going to come in and continue with the stabilization of the institution. But not only that, but to stabilize it and set it up for growth. So there's a number of projects that the board has in place to set ourselves as an institution for further growth into the future. And so we're very clear about the strategic direction that we're taking as a board. And in the interview process, obviously, we had to make sure that we have alignment on that particular aspect, which I'm very pleased that we do have alignment broadly with the incoming CEO in terms of the strategic direction that we need to follow. And also to make sure that, we don't lose momentum on some of the work that we've already begun towards positioning ourselves for a brighter future.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about alignment because, it's one thing to have a conversation and feel there's alignment, and then it's quite another when you're in the operations and you're in the day-to-day. So given Mr. Fihla's vast banking experience and contributing to significant growth at his former employer, presumably he'll be given some level of latitude and support to pursue growth within, of course, your governance frameworks.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, I think it is the one thing that we were alive and sensitive to. The one thing that would be unfortunate, and we've seen it before in other institutions, is where CEOs go and strategic misalignment is a factor that is being cited at the point of exit. So that, we do what's right to test the thinking and how the person sees things. Clearly, there may be some tactical moves here, some variations or the flavor that Kenny wants to bring in. So we don't want to constrain that. But certainly, I think there's broad alignment. And if there are any deviations, I think they would be minor.
Yeah. Look, we know that leadership at the top in the South African context, there's been a push, for transformation, and that we should see a black CEO or a black chairman at key institutions like banks. How much of a factor was that in the decision that was taken, given the fact that there have been criticisms around transformation at Absa?
I think the biggest thing, obviously, was that, one, what is the most important thing for us is to find a credible CEO and somebody that can take the institution to the next level. And I think when we wanted to tick those boxes. And obviously, there was an important box, around, diversity and inclusion. So we did have a lens. But I think when you look at an individual, we're looking for commerciality, we're looking for experience. And in Kenny, before we even looked at the aspect of him being a person of color, he ticked all the boxes already.
Okay. And then lastly, Mr. Fihla was placed on gardening leave yesterday, the 17th of March. From your side, is there any restraint of trade rule that you've placed on him? Isn't 6 months leave usually the sort of norm for a person of his level of seniority?
Yeah, look, we, what do they call this? Garden leave provisions differ from institution to institution and from exec to exec. In his case, it happens that his agreement with Standard Bank said he must give them 3 months notice, and that's a 3 months notice that is given on either side. We have different provisions at Absa. We tend to put a slightly longer period of 6 months in our contracts with our senior executives. So we're fortunate, obviously, in this case.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Ndade Moloko. That's Sello Moloko. He is the chairperson at Absa.